You know, we've talked about the history of mobile gaming, we've talked about the history of Finnish mobile gaming, we've come up to the present day, success of Supercell and all of those people. So we're going to be talking with these lovely people about the industry today, and more interestingly than that perhaps, about what the future might hold. It's going to be like gazing into a crystal ball or something, and hopefully we will find a magical prediction in which we will all be able to make vast amounts of money by listening to exactly what these people say. But before we kick off with the exceedingly interesting questions that I thought up, I'm just going to get you all to run quickly down the line and introduce yourselves, just so we know all of these lovely people who are talking. So, off we go.
So, hi everyone, I'm Petri Jarvilehto. I'm the Chief Creative at Seriously, building a new, incredibly ambitious and pretty awesome mobile gaming startup. Previously, I was running Rovio's games unit, and prior to that, one of the founders in a company called Remedy.
Hi, I'm Timo Soinin, and I'm the CEO of Small Giant Games. We're also building pretty awesomeness for the rest of the world, so we'll be announcing our first title soon. My history is one of the veterans of the industry, so I ran Habbo Hotel almost 11 years here from Helsinki.
And I'm Suvi Latta from NeoGames, coordinator, and I came to the industry at 98 with the real-time 3D graphics, and then there was an internet bubble, and then I ended up to do some game research, and then after I've been doing some game industry support, and I think I'm stick to that path.
Hi, I'm Lasse Seppänen. I'm the CEO, co-founder at PlayRaven. I worked on games for the past 16 years, co-founder of IGDA Finland, built the studio for Sumea, which was sold to Digital Chocolate, and then spent 6 years at Remedy as executive producer and chief operating officer.
Hi, I'm Antti Steen. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Boom Lagoon. And I'm one of the many people in Finnish gaming who was schooled by Sumea and Digital Chocolate. I was there for over 7 years. And then I was a couple of years at Rovio, and then founded Boom Lagoon in 2012. And the most awesome game is coming out really soon from us. It's called Monsu.
Moi. I'm Jiri Kupiainen. I'm the CEO of Shark Punch, where we make games with our fans. Happy to tell you what that means after the panel. I've been in the Finnish games industry for 14 years now, and my previous company was called Rocket Pack and was acquired by Disney a couple of years ago.
Hi, I'm Matthias. I'm the CEO of Remedy. We're one of the unique studios in the world where we've had success both on the consoles and AAA, and also on iOS and mobile, having a #1 seat on both sides of the equation. I've been with Remedy since '99, and our track record is pretty awesome, and we hope to make exceptional games in the future as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Joachim, founder of Next Games. I have a background from gaming entrepreneur since 2005 when I started my first mobile games company. Did a stint at Supercell for a while, then started working on Next Games, and we just celebrated our first anniversary last month.
Fantastic. Well, it looks like a dignified selection of panelists, which is fantastic. And I've got my first question before I go off and try and look into the future and make us all look very intelligent or foolish, depending upon how things work out in 5 years' time. I'm just going to ask you all a question first about what's the Finnish mobile gaming community like now? I think, Suvi, you were dealing with it very nicely in the last presentation, but what would you describe, say, were the essential elements of the Finnish industry now, and why perhaps it's so successful at the moment?
I think that the original reason is that we really don't have any domestic market in Finland, so people don't find themselves as a competitors. And it's always about that nobody's actually worried that somebody's going to steal your game idea, because it's not an issue. It's about how you're gonna execute the idea. And I don't think that that people are really afraid that others would steal their ideas or something like that. And it's and as they said in earlier panel, that when somebody's succeeding, it's kind of breaking a wind from the others. So it's easier to come on the side when somebody's being successful. It increases the possibilities to others to be successful. And as we have now seen that there is something like 4 or 5 really successful game companies like who has broken through. So it's obviously an issue that Finland is the place to be, and now it's much more easier for new startups
Okay, so how exactly does that work? So someone's having a great idea. How does this great idea get into the rest of the industry? Is it a case that you're all phoning each other up or whatever, or sending in some messages, or is there a sort of a wider community that helps to construct this? Do you go out to events and meet up? I mean, how does it work? Anyone want to take that in particular?
Beer.
Well, there we go. Go on. Beer. Yeah,
one thing is that when a Finnish guy says, let's have lunch, we actually have lunch. Yeah. So instead of like you say it in the States, we never meet.
There's that. I mean, and I think as generally in Finland, and particularly obviously in the Nordics as well, I think we do value cooperation above competition. And frankly, I think there's very little, in terms of particular ideas or execution, that's not really what we're looking at. What we're really looking at are kind of thought models and kind of different approaches. And when we look at strategy or game development or production or technology, we look at the solutions and the logic behind that as opposed to the specific implementation.
Yeah. So in terms of looking, I guess, at sort of new directions that people are taking, I think one of the things that's really developed recently is, of course, I think development of brands, development of these attempts by companies to build up their own successful entities and to build up their own successful characters and things like that. I mean, what's been your experience of that? Do you think that companies in Finland are moving ahead with that better than other companies? I've always thought that Rovio have been the pioneers in that case, but there's plenty of other companies that seem to be doing that. Is that the case, and do you think that's the future of the industry? Oh, there we go. Timo, go for it, Timo.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what is kind of interesting, and it's very not so often talked about, is that obviously we have fantastic coders and a lot of sort of, fantastic graphical design talent, but, what has emerged over the last 4 or 5 years is also that, that we're finally getting our act together in sort of the business side of things, and also building brands, learning user acquisition, which has been one of the Achilles heels of the industry so far. But that side of the business has matured dramatically over the 5 years.
Yeah.
But it's also, there's, I think, a strong sense of progress in terms of getting creative to meet commercial, kind of finding the right combination of how to create both creatively fulfilling fantastic games, but at the same time combine that with a financially and commercially successful product. And that to me is, that's very, very much at the center of the modern design talent.
I think that's definitely the case, and I think this brings me round to one of the major questions, I guess, is about monetization, about how people are going to be making money in the future from their games. I mean, the previous panel, there were people who were saying, basically there was someone who said, I've always made paid games and I can't transition to free-to-play. It's not my skill set, it's not my strength. Can you survive in the modern economy now, in the modern app economy with paid games? Do you have to go all the way to free-to-play? I mean, Joachim, I think you'll be a natural to talk about this.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a transition's definitely going on, that people are figuring out how to start monetizing with the freemium model, kind of like going for all the different kind of genres in gaming. But I would say like it's just mobile, so there's going to be new platforms coming out, like Oculus is going to be interesting. Can you actually bring free-to-play there with the similar kind of like game genres? Can you do RTS on Oculus? Probably not. So it's going to be interesting with the new platforms.
Yeah, I've been seeing your eyes. I can tell you're wanting to say something.
No, I think it's also important that we realize that the target price for all digital goods is zero. I mean, if you look at what's happening in music, everybody just plays music on Spotify. So effectively you pay zero for your albums nowadays. So what bands are doing is they're actually trying to monetize the customer relationship, the fan relationship, and I think that's something we all have to really recognize and get much better at. Like, because right now, our customers aren't really ours; they're Apple's customers, and they just happen to play our games. Like, we have to figure out how to, get in touch with the customers before Apple pulls them in.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Lasse?
Yeah, the way I like to think of the premium versus free-to-play, the thinking is really the movie theater versus television. So when television was introduced, it was, obviously people thought that TV is full of crap, and it's because it's free, and that's the problem. But over time, people were able to come up with new genres and new content designed for television. So I think free-to-play will evolve over time to have more quality and more brands and be a very, very big area. But it doesn't mean the movie theaters went away. They just have a smaller role, right? So the premium game, I don't think it's going to die out completely. But
there you go again.
But at the same time, if you look at premium on the mobile market, it is becoming extremely difficult to actually ship anything that you get your development cost back on.
Yeah.
On the premium side, it's almost like the premium is cliff diving while the free side is in exponential growth. So it's a challenging environment on mobile.
Is it permanent situation?
No, I mean, transition is fantastic. Change is good. It keeps you, at least, you have to stay awake.
When you want to build a big business, it's extremely challenging with the paid download. We have seen it was only like was it
I'm not saying it's
December
easy on free
December that these Cornfox brothers were really lucky with Ocean On, but still you are not building it's really hard to build a scalable business with the
if you're depending on featured all the time, like that's suicide.
To follow up on that transition note, if you look at the changes we're seeing in this market, like business models are changing, distribution models are changing, platforms are changing, the customer behavior is changing, everything is in a massive transition and state of flux right now. And that is generally, especially for people like us, trying to build something new on these platforms, that's a super exciting time. That change creates new opportunities.
Absolutely, and I think Petri hits the nail on the head there. I think in the time of rapid change, it's more and more about who learns the quickest as opposed to what you know previously. Yeah. And frankly, the incumbents, if we had a status quo that we had before, it was all about distribution power and marketing power. Yeah. And now it's more about your smarts and it's about your speed and how aggressive you are and how good you are in execution. I think that's a fantastic market for us to be at. That's one of the reasons why I think it's a much more egalitarian system than it was before. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we're seeing tremendous success from Finland, because content is king. Yeah. The best content is winning. It's not about EA's marketing muscle, no pun to EA, or Walmart. It's a better life.
Yeah, I think there's something else. I'm going to continue on this because I mean, obviously you were speaking about the model of television, and you were saying television versus movies. But at the same time, like when you were talking about TV, you were saying that look, it's all free and things like that. But on top of TV being all free, the model in TV's evolved. So you've got the likes of Netflix, which has arrived, HBO in the US, which has arrived with its own subscription model. And they've worked out different ways of monetizing their content. They've evolved the model further by doing something new and different. But I guess my question is the problem within the mobile ecosystem is that Apple has such a stranglehold in many ways over the way that you make money. Of course, they give you a certain amount of flexibility, but as we've seen recently with ad networks and things like the video incent stuff, if Apple decide they want to shut off a route to you, they can quite easily do that. So how much room do you think there is for real innovation within the way that people are going to end up paying and monetizing their games in the future? I mean, Apple have brought in app bundles for the paid games to try and introduce a bit more a bit more flexibility within the paid market. But do you see the arrival of new models like within free-to-play that might change things?
Yeah, I think one of the key issues seems to be the unfairness or fairness of the free-to-play model, and I think that's become a really hot topic. And I think now we have not only Apple and Google sort of stepping in and restricting the business, but we have also legislators jumping in. There's really interesting discussions that how do you actually interpret this? What's fair and what's not fair? And especially when you're talking to younger audiences, it gets really problematic. And I think as long as we have this like a duopoly system with Apple and Google, I think it will actually restrict innovation, because there will be new players who will get nailed down that you don't even try this, and I think that is a bit of an issue. I think one area that which is not very much talked about is the third world countries, where we have hundreds of millions of people who are now without the reach of Apple, because they don't have credit cards, so they can't really utilize Apple's payment systems. Therefore, it's going to be interesting to see how these operator billing systems actually change the world going forward, because as the Western world, so to speak, becomes really mature.
Yeah. Has anyone else got anything to say? There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading a little bit about television, and the history of television in America is that the cable networks used to really dominate the content. So what you could say, can you use the F word and so on. And then HBO bypassed them by satellite. They were the first channel to send their content over satellite. So I think there will be trials to sort of bypass this one way or another. And if there really is attractive content at the other side of the thing, it's hard for me to say that the barriers are eternal, but they might last a long time.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting here. I think with Joachim was mentioning Oculus, and I think developers in the mobile space are willing to broaden their horizons. They're willing to go, maybe I was developing on mobile first, but now people are looking at other platforms. They're looking at the likes of Steam. So Simogo, obviously from Malmo, they started out by releasing Year Walk on iOS, but they've recently released it on Steam as an attempt to broaden their market. I mean, I guess there's two questions to this. Is like, one, do you think Finnish developers are thinking in those sort of terms? Do you think they're thinking about broadening beyond, say, mobile and thinking about other things? And two, if they are doing that, do you think that represents some sort of danger to the mobile industry, that perhaps talent are thinking about moving their games elsewhere? I mean, maybe I'm just being unnecessarily controversial here. He's nodding in agreement with that.
No, I agree.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, at least so, I mean, I can just talk about our company, but our strategy actually is because we did a lot of multi-platform at Rocket Pack, so we know that pretty well from a technology standpoint. And we really think that for many game concepts, it actually makes more sense to kind of get the initial validation of the early fans on PC and Steam, for example. And then, when we have that user base, we can make the jump to mobile in a much easier manner, since we already have a lot of weight behind the product, which helps in the discussion with Apple, for example.
Yeah, that's the Mike Biffle argument, I believe. He said something similar. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like Finnish developers are learning to look at all the platforms and the new platforms. I remember when Facebook turned on its like canvas, the app canvas in 2007, like Finnish developers weren't there, and all the US developers were like hacking away and building like really primitive games, but making a lot of money and making some noise there. But I think it's kind of, we're learning now that it's not so much a big jump to go try something new, and we're happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I mean, obviously there's all of these different ways that people are looking at making money throughout their, say, business models, or the way their games monetize, or more just generally through which platforms they look at. But another way that companies are obviously looking to get themselves off the ground, it's investment from government authorities, maybe investment from just private companies. I mean, how do you think that's working out in the Finnish sector? Do you think these companies are still going to get the support? I mean, Nokia, obviously I was speaking about that earlier, about the role that Nokia played in investing in all these companies. Now they've gone, and it's been basically relying on private investment and other government authorities coming. Do you think that's going to continue in the future? Do you think Finnish companies can rely on that, or are they going to have to be working on basically creating these small hits and scaling themselves up in that way? I'm looking at Suvi again. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but it's just...
I might be a little bit biased, but I would say that, of course, all the Finnish game developers who are able to do a solid business plan and are willing to get private investments, I'm definitely sure that this time and opportunities is going to last for at least for a while. And I'm not that worried about our success kind of getting fading or something, because there has been so much investment, so many game companies. So I'm kind of relying that not kind of Nokia thing is going to happen to the game industry, because everyone is always asking, is this going to be next Nokia? No, it's not going to be. This is not our success is not relying on one company. There are several different kind of companies, and there are several visions, not just only one vision how to do it. So that's the reason I strongly believe that this kind of great opportunities to get some more private investments. It's continuing, not necessary for eventually, but.
Okay.
And also, I don't think there's like a lot of fear of, for example, Tekes not being up to beat what's happening, because they are constantly developing their programs and things like that. So it's quite obvious that they know what's going on, and they are kind of tailoring their funding programs based on what's happening.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I think I'm coming around to sort of perhaps one last section of questions. So I think it's about Finland as the destination for mobile gaming. So we saw Jefferson Valderes of EA. He was talking earlier about the fact that he came over from Brazil to Finland because he saw this reputation for the industry. And I think when you look at when I look from an outsider at the Finnish scene, I see a much more mature and developed an advanced ecosystem, and one that perhaps has longer term values at the heart of it than, say, somewhere like Silicon Valley or something like that, which is much more iterate and rapidly go through something. How do you think Helsinki is going to evolve? Do you imagine it becoming this international hub, or do you imagine that it's going to retain a sort of a Finnish feel to it? How about you, Lassi?
I think it absolutely has to be an international hub, because, for instance, we are a 10-man company now. We have one Mexican and 2 Brazilians. So we really have to be international. We can't find all the talent in Finland. No way.
But I think on many levels it would be fair to say that already today Finland is the mobile gaming capital of the world.
Yeah, I was thinking the same.
It's not about the future, it is here and now, right now. It's one of pretty much the most thriving mobile gaming community on the planet.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how's it going to retain that position then? There's a lot of competition, I guess.
But I think the macroeconomic factors are there. They've always been there. It's what Monaco rated us number 5 in the world to live. 5 best cities. You know, lost to Stockholm again. Damn it. But you know, we're Finns. We play ice hockey. We're used to that. But anyway, I mean, I think we have a lot of attributes that make it a destination for people that's fairly accessible and easy to come to. At least for us, 40% of our staff are from overseas, 16 different nationalities. It was a big milestone for us when our first Japanese game designer joined us, you know, giving back, you know, from kind of a great gaming country, and having those guys actually migrate to Finland to make games. And certainly we're seeing more and more of that. And it's no longer just about coming to a certain company, you're coming to a certain ecosystem. So that, for many, is a hurdle. If you're the only employer, it's a large risk to come. But honestly, if you're a game designer, you can see your future in the ecosystem as well. Maybe your next career or your next kind of job will be at another company in this ecosystem. And you know, obviously, great companies all around and new opportunities. So I think that's good for us. I think we'll just draw more and more talent.
Yeah, I think one of the, you know, we are also a team of 10. We already have 3 or 4. Well, four guys from you know different countries in Finland, and I think one of the things, going back also to, you know, looking at some of the colleagues here, I think it's the culture, you know, kind of the working culture is different, and at least to us, I mean, a lot of people seem to appreciate the really almost like no nonsense, a lot of responsibility. They are really part of the team members, super critical team, and they appreciate the responsibility, because you know some guys have said to me that, you know, I was working there, I kind of liked it, but you know, I was like boxed into this little thing. Here, you know, I'm the, you know, the king of the hill, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think I've got time for just one last little question. I think I'm going to keep it on a vaguely similar theme, but I'm going to talk about the way that, in a way that sort of Helsinki is actually drawing international elements into it in another way. So in the case of Next Games, you've got the Walking Dead license, and I think previously in mobile games, obviously, Riot managed to get all of their licenses, and I don't think they particularly delivered the thrilling gameplay experience that's expected. But is it a case that Finnish companies are able to use their expertise to help internationally known brands or licenses to basically realise their potential? And if so, how can they go about making sure that Finnish companies continue to secure those titles ahead of, say, American competitors?
I think it's sharing a lot of knowledge, sharing contacts, helping a friend.
Exactly, help a friend. There we go.
So yeah, definitely need to grow as a community in a sense that there's always new things to learn, how this kind of business is like done. That we're still probably lacking a lot, but yeah, and also like just going outside of Finland and talking with other developers. And Finland has the reputation now of bringing some cool stuff to gaming, so let's try to use that.
I would also add that if you look at, say, for example, the success of Rovio and how incredibly much they've worked with creating licensing, creating branding, that all builds know-how, it builds expertise. It means that there's more people who have connections, more people that know each other. If you don't know anyone directly, then you probably know somebody who knows somebody. And given the culture and the climate, it's pretty easy to reach out and go like, hey dude, I'd need a favor, can we talk?
Yeah, Helsinki sounds like a knowledge utopia to me. But no, I think, well, I mean, that's all we've actually got time for there. But so could everyone give our panelists a round of applause, because it's been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.